Now that we have all of the elements that we want to animate set up correctly, we're going to go ahead and begin our walk cycle. I'm going to start off with one of the legs. We'll just begin work on the front leg, and we're going to begin our animation. So the front leg, I'm going to open up rotation for all of the front leg elements since we'll be working on the property of rotation. And let's move our playback head back to the beginning of our comp. Now that we have keyframes at frame 1, I'm going to move my playback head out by 5 frames, and then we'll augment what we've done. So I'm just going to go ahead and begin, and we'll have the hip rotate slightly back. I'm going to grab my front thigh. This is also going to go back a little bit. And then we're going to select the front shin, and we'll bring this forward a little bit. And let's start to rotate our foot down. We'll go ahead and we'll move out another 5 frames. I'm going to continue to make modifications, and I will just continue to move my playback head out every 5 frames. That's where I want to set my new keyframe settings. And let's just take a look here. You can see the flamingo is going to pick up its foot, and then it's going to reach forward. So that's going to be our first step that we're going to take on that front foot. So now let's go back and let's start to work on the back foot. I will select all of the front leg items. I'm going to click U to collapse them, and then we'll do the same thing on the back legs. We're going to select these all, and we'll make sure our playback head is at frame 1, and we'll use Option R. I'll move my playback head out by 5 frames. And then we'll just begin working with the same sort of scenario. So here, I'm just going to decide which of these items I want to rotate, and I'll start to make modifications. And at this point, I need to be able to reference my other foot, so I'm going to go back to the front foot, and we'll just open up our rotation property so we can see what's going on there. And now you can see we have a little bit of a walk cycle that we've created right here. Sometimes it takes a little while to get it all dialed in, but I think that will work okay. So now that we have the walk cycle pretty much dialed in, we need to trim our comp to this duration. So I'm going to park my playback head 1 frame past these keyframes, which is going to be for me at 121. I'll select all of the layers, and I'm going to hit the keyboard shortcut of Option right bracket to trim. And let's just make our composition this duration. So we'll go to Composition, Composition Settings, and we're going to reduce the duration to 121. Now I'm going to go back to the main comp, and you can see that this is now a little bit shorter than what we had before. We're going to take our flamingo and move the whole flamingo character off of the screen. And you can see right now that when I move the flamingo, the size of the bounding box is the size of the composition. In order to make things easier, let's crop to just the area of action. So I'm going to use my region of interest, and we'll draw a dialog box. And I just need to scrub through the timeline to make sure that none of the moving parts are going to extend past our box, which they aren't. Then we'll go to Composition, and we'll use Crop Comp to region of interest. And now when I go back to the flamingo, you can see that the bounding box is around the flamingo. I'm going to move the flamingo so it's off the screen. Let's come to the flamingo pre-comp. We'll click P to open position, and I'm going to turn on keyframing. You can see that I've already moved the flamingo off screen. I'm just going to move out in time, and we'll just go to right at the end of our pre-comp, and we'll grab our flamingo and just drag it onto the center of our screen. And let's just move it down a little bit. So if we play our animation, you're going to see that the flamingo is going to walk onto the screen, and then it disappears. Now, obviously, we don't want it to disappear. We're going to have it walk onto the screen. It'll remain in the middle of the screen for a few seconds, and then it will walk off. So what I'm going to do in order to extend this out is we're going to add time remapping. I'll right-click on the flamingo character pre-comp. I'm going to choose time, enable time remapping, and that's going to add the time remapping feature. And now you can see if we scrub through, the flamingo still disappears, but we have a layer that's going to exist for the duration of our composition. So what we'll do is we're going to come to the keyframe that has been placed right here, and I'll use my keyboard shortcut to ensure that I'm right on the playback head. I'm using keyboard shortcut of J or K to move up or back in time, and we're just going to adjust the duration to 120, which is the last frame where we'll actually see our flamingo. Then I'm going to move my playback head out one frame. The easiest way to do this is to use the page down on your keyboard, or you can type it in right here. If we try to create another keyframe at this point, you'll see that it just kind of replaces the existing keyframe. So I'm going to do undo, and we'll zoom way in on the timeline. And you can see here's the keyframe that we just made. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move this back to 120. Now with my playback head here, if I click, it should make another keyframe. This is going to create the hold animation for us. So here the flamingo's walking, now it's going to hold, and we'll just have it hold in the middle of the screen for roughly 2 seconds. So I'm just going to go ahead and type plus 200, which will place my playback head 2 seconds out. I'm going to create another keyframe, so I'll click the diamond to add a keyframe. With my playback head at this keyframe, I'm going to zoom in just like we did before. I'll move the playback head out one frame at a time. We're going to go ahead and turn on keyframing, and let's just set this back to frame 1. And now I'm going to extend the playback head out about 1 second and 20 frames. So I'll just write plus 120, which will add 120 on to the current amount of the playback head. And we're going to change the time remap value to 120. So this should allow the flamingo to do a walk cycle. So you can see in the middle, we've kind of created a hold. Then I'll move to where I want to start the animation for position. I'm going to set a keyframe for position. I'll move the playback head out to the last keyframe that we have, and we'll just click, hold, and drag the flamingo off the stage. So if we rewind and play, you can see the flamingo walks, hangs out for a couple seconds, and then it walks away. And in that way, we were able to animate our character with a bit of a walk cycle. We are using many of the techniques that we've used previously in our class, but we're just kind of bringing them together in another way. And in this section, we'll definitely be focusing on other things that we can do that revolve around character animation.